Welcome to the Explainer. Today we're unpacking how one single, first-century text completely rewired our entire understanding of truth, reality, and human identity. We're diving into the prologue of John's Gospel. And let me tell you, this text makes an absolutely stratospheric, audacious claim about the universe, and exactly where we fit into it.
Now, to really grasp the gravity of what we're looking at, I want you to imagine something for a second. Imagine your biological heritage, your religious community, and all your closest social circles have just expelled you. You've totally lost your home. So, whose are you now? Where do you even belong? You see, this wasn't just some fun philosophical hypothetical. This was the literal, terrifying reality for the people who first heard this text.
So, here's our roadmap for today's Explainer. We're going to look at a new origin story, excavate some ancient words, see how Genesis gets rewritten, compare the map versus the territory, explore the hard edge of truth, and finally, look at how to order our daily chaos. Let's get right into it. Section 1, a new origin story. We're setting the scene in Ephesus, right around the 90s AD.
Let's set the historical stage here. The Gospel of John was originally written to this mixed Jewish-Gentile house church that had literally just been kicked out of their local synagogue. They were being told flat out, "You're no longer Jews." So suddenly stripped of their religious identity, they were small, they were afraid, and they were deeply marginalized. And for this terrified community, John takes an early Christian hymn and completely repurposes it. He gives them this cosmic origin story, one that actually goes back way further than their ancestor Abraham. He gives them a story that begins before time itself even existed.
Moving to Section 2, excavating ancient words. This is where we do the theological heavy lifting.
Okay, to really wrap our heads around the sheer audacity of this new story, we've got to excavate three specific ancient Greek words that do the major work here. First up is logos. Now, to a first-century Jew, this would have immediately echoed the memra of God, that creative utterance back in Genesis 1, the literal voice that said, "Let there be light." But to a Greek mind, it evoked the Stoic concept of a rational principle that perfectly orders the cosmos. John essentially hijacks both of these massive foundational traditions and makes a totally shocking claim. He declares that the rational principle of the universe is actually a person. It's not some abstract force out there. It's a who.
Next, John uses the word iskinosin, which literally translates to tabernacled or pitched his tent. And this is a huge deal, because it's the exact same root word used for God's glory dwelling in the wilderness tabernacle back in the book of Exodus. John is making the incredibly bold claim that the divine glory, the same glory that once led Israel through the desert, has now literally moved into a human body. It didn't set up shop in a permanent temple made of stone, but in a fragile, breathing body made of human cells.
And finally, John takes the Greek concept of aletheia, which is the search for reality exactly as it is, and he fuses it with the Hebrew word emet, meaning absolute faithfulness and covenantal trustworthiness. What John is insisting here is that ultimate truth isn't just getting your facts straight about reality. Truth is a who that you can completely trust, rather than a what that you just sit back and analyze.
Section 3, rewriting Genesis and the archetypal layer. So looking at this archetypal layer, John's prologue acts as a complete rewiring of the classic origin story. If you look at the structure, John is quite literally rewriting Genesis 1. Think about it. In Genesis, light is created, but in John, light is a person. In Genesis, Adam is made in God's image. In John, the true image actually shows up in the flesh. In Genesis, creation is declared good, but in John, creation is actually inhabited by the Creator. The author didn't just write a nice script from afar. He literally wrote himself right into the unfolding plot of creation. He isn't just a character popping up in Act 3, he created the very world he stepped into.
Now, viewed through a psychological lens, as Jordan Peterson points out, the logos is the principle that orders chaos into habitable reality. Think back to Genesis again. God speaks, and the formless void, that chaotic tohu wa bohu, becomes a beautifully ordered cosmos where life can actually flourish. John is telling us that Jesus is that ordering speech. So when your own life feels completely formless, void, and dark, this logos is the active speech that speaks light right into your specific daily chaos.
But of course, there is a shadow here. The text says, "The light shines in the darkness," but you really have to look closely at the Greek verb used. The darkness did not suppress it. It didn't seize it. It didn't overcome it. Now, this aggressive darkness is very real, and it is constantly trying to snuff out this light. But the text makes this fundamental, unshakable claim about the very structure of reality. The darkness fails every single time. This isn't just ancient optimism, guys. It's an architectural truth about how the universe works.
Section 4. The map versus the territory. Truth as person.
Let's transition over to the psychological core of this and see how it builds this massive contrast in how we view the world. There's a really sharp juxtaposition happening here between a proposition and a person. A proposition? Well, that's just a map. It simply describes reality, like saying water freezes at 0 degrees Celsius. You can safely memorize it, but knowing that cold hard fact doesn't change your character, right? A person, on the other hand, is the actual territory. A person has agency. They walk right towards you, and they call you by name. You see, you can memorize facts about loyalty all day long, but loyalty only becomes real when a trusted person is standing right beside you at 2 a.m. Truth as a person demands your trust, and it actively transforms who you actually are.
And John anchors this incredible paradigm shift beautifully. He contrasts the law, which was given through Moses as this passive, impersonal system written externally on stone tablets, with grace and truth, which came through Jesus Christ. Jesus didn't just show up to deliver a new system. He arrived as a person who literally is the thing being delivered. It's internal. It's breathing. It's walking around on its own 2 feet.
Section 5. The hard edge of truth. The cost to the modern reader.
Now, embracing this shift from a proposition to a person, it isn't easy. In fact, it brings a highly offensive scandal to our modern sensibilities. Let's look at the hard edge of this text. In this framework, our modern obsession with self-creation just completely crumbles. You simply cannot construct your own identity. It is given to you from the outside. You cannot earn grace. It arrives as this unrelenting overflow, literally grace upon grace. And honestly, most jarringly for the modern mind, you can't just keep ultimate truth at arm's length to analyze it safely in a lab. Truth is a man you have to follow. Because if truth is a person, then detached indifference is off the table. You either trust him or you have to walk away.
Which brings us perfectly to G.K. Chesterton's brilliant paradox. The most profound theological statement in human history, the Word became flesh, is actually the most remarkably concrete thing imaginable. Orthodoxy is always the most grounded, messy option on the table. We aren't dealing with some mystical, floating philosophy here. We are dealing with God arriving as a literal baby who needed his diaper changed. And that raw reality demands our complete, vulnerable trust, not just our detached intellectual agreement. It's difficult precisely because it demands absolutely everything from us.
Finally, Section 6. Ordering Daily Chaos, the Formation Challenge.
So now that we've excavated all this massive theological architecture, how do we actively order the chaos in our own daily lives? Let's get really practical here. I'd highly encourage you to take some concrete steps this week. Try reading Genesis 1 and John 1 back to back out loud every single morning. Just let the rhythm of that ancient text settle deep into your bones. Notice where the formless chaos, that tohu wa bohu we talked about, needs ordering in your life today. And instead of trying to fight the pressing darkness head-on, intentionally do one small act of hospitality in that exact space. Just make a small little space for the Word to pitch a tent in your own neighborhood.
And when you inevitably face a difficult decision this week, try this out. The next time you catch yourself treating truth like it's just a puzzle, trying to figure out the right rule for whatever ethical dilemma you're in, just stop. Ask yourself this deeply personal question instead. If I was sitting in a room with him right now and he looked at me with full knowledge and full love, what would I actually want to do?
I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to really challenge how you navigate the reality of your week. A proposition can be memorized, but a person has to be trusted. You cannot be in the truth until you are with the truth, because the truth has a name, a face, and scars on his hands. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Until next time, keep seeking and keep learning.